When you're designing your Power BI data model, it's really important, I think, to think about the date table. Whenever you have a date field in a table, Power BI recognizes the date, identifies the date, and creates date hierarchies on your behalf. And you may have seen this. The date hierarchies basically break the date into year, month, quarter, and day. And this is really important when you want to filter visuals by maybe a certain year and or a certain month and be able to drill through. But a lot of Power BI developers don't use the date hierarchies that Power BI creates. These are hidden tables that are created on your behalf, and they actually take up a lot of space. And they can end up very big and cause some rather serious performance issues. So it's considered best practice to actually create your own date table and to mark it as a date table and include it in your data model. So that's what I want to take you through. Now we can create our own date table using DAX functions like calendar and calendar auto. And we look at that in our DAX course. But what I want to do is give you some code that you can use, which when you run this code, this M code, it is a function that automatically creates a date table for you. And so simply contact me for this code and it will create your date table. All right, so let's have a look. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go back to my report canvas. So I'm going to hit my report button. And I'm then going to go to transform data. So I end up going to Power Query. Now in Power Query, I would like to go to new source and I'd like to create a blank query. Now on the View tab, well, actually on the Home tab, I'd like to choose Advanced Editor, though it is on the View tab as well. You can go to Advanced Editor that way as well. But you go to the Advanced Editor and you clear out whatever code is already in there. Now I will provide you with the code that you need. I'll just go grab that code and I am just going to copy it and paste it. So I'm just grabbing this code here, copy it, and I will paste it into here. So this code is the code that I will provide you with. Just simply contact me and that will create your date table. So I'll click done, having copied and pasted that, and then I need to respond to these questions. Now the start date for my date table, I would like to be the 1st of the 1st, 2019. And the end date for my table, I'd like to be the 31st of the 12th, 2021. And my financial year begins in the 4th month, April. And my weekday starts 1, which is number 1, Monday. And I want to use workday, so I'm going to go true. If I then click the invoke button, it basically has now created a date table with dates ranging from the 1st of the 1st, 2019 to the 31st of the 12th, 2021. So you can choose whatever range you want. And it's extracted the year, the month, and a whole lot of other date related columns, which give you all the power in the world to slice and format your visuals by date. So a really, really quick way of creating a date table without you having to do it manually. Now I want to name this query, so I'm just going to press F2, create a date table function. That's the name of this function. And the invoked function is actually, if I press F2, is actually my dim date table. So that is my date table. If I now go home and I go close and apply, that date table will automatically appear in my list of fields as soon as it's finished loading. And there it is there in alphabetical order, dim date table. And if I open it up, you can see all sorts of dates that we can now use to slice and dice your data. So very handy piece of code. Just give me a yell if you would like a copy. Now that I have a date table, I need to mark it as a date table so that I no longer use the built-in date tables provided by Power BI, which are too big. If I right-click the table, I can mark it as a date table and mark it as a date table. It asks me which column to use, and I'm going to choose the column date. That is the column I want to use as my primary date, and OK. So I've now marked my table as a date table. Now there's certain rules with a date table. It must contain unique values. It must not have any null values. It must contain a contiguous date range, and it must be the data type date. So those are some of the rules. Now what I need to do now is actually go into the options of Power BI, and I need to actually turn off auto date time. So File, Options and Settings, and Options. I then go to the current file and data load, and in here I turn off auto date time. You can learn more by clicking this option here, but this option automatically creates a hidden date table for each field in the model. And we don't want that. We want to use our now created and marked as a date table. So I'm going to take that option off and OK. And this will make a huge difference to the size of your Power BI file and the performance of your Power BI file. So best practice is to create your own date table, mark it as a date table, turn off the auto date and time field, and start using that date table. Okay, so we've done that. Now what I need to do is I need to include that date table in my model. So on the left-hand side here, I'm currently in report view. That's why I can see the report canvas. I'm now going to switch back to my model view. I now have my date table here. I'm just going to put it in between employees and products. All right. Now I want to relate this table to my orders table. That is my fact table that is most relevant, and then the date in the orders table flows through to the order details. There's no date table, no date column or field in the order details. So what we do is we grab this date field here, and you can see the little symbol, and we're going to drop it on the order date field in the fact orders. So date to order date, and I drop it there. If I rest on the line between these two tables, it puts a grey highlight behind date in the dim date table, and it puts a grey highlight behind order date in the fact orders table. And that way I can check when I dropped it on the right field. So date is now related to the order date. So I've included my date table in my relationships. So I'm going to save my Power BI file. All right. Come back for the next video.